Let's explore tips and tricks to find the perfect meditation teacher for you. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question on Reddit. Simply titled, Seeking Help in Finding a Teacher. The individual writes, "Hello and namaste. I am really passionate about learning and further exploring Buddhism and integrating it into my daily life. And I'm trying to do so for the last 2 to 3 years. But still, it is very difficult to do without a teacher. So I'm going to stop right there. It's brilliant that someone recognizes they need help. One of the toxic traits of living in late-stage capitalism is the bold-faced lie that we can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. No, we can't. Ask a physicist, that's impossible. So the very fact that we recognize that if we want to excel in anything, we could use some assistance is brilliant. Let's continue. For often the teachings are very context-based with some specific intentions which are difficult to grasp. Yes. And not all that glitters is gold, and not everything that claims to be a sutra is a sutra. A lot of it is just garbage masquerading as Buddhism. And so, yes, it can be helpful to have a good teacher. Let's continue. Hence, I feel that some group like a sangha or a spiritual friend or a teacher could be really helpful on this journey and exploration. Hence, it would be helpful to have such supports on my journey. But as a student from India who is currently pursuing studies in Munich, Germany, my German is very weak, and hence it is difficult to find such resources here. So I salute. One of the things I love about India is that there's so much multilingualism. People tend to speak Hindi, which is a national dialect. They tend to speak their regional dialect. They tend to speak English, and they tend to speak another language. And I just take my hat off to anybody who does that. One of my long-term students lives in Sweden. He was born in Sweden, and he studies, with me and for him, English is a second language, and yet he still is able to learn. And so I really respect anybody who has the enthusiasm and the ability to do that. Well done, you. Obviously, because of the linguistic barriers, and also because these Buddhist networks are not that common here. But nonetheless, I want to explore more and really learn, especially Tibetan Buddhism, which I really like. Fabulous. So if you guys could make suggestions for me as to how to proceed further, that would be really helpful. Thanks and compassionate regards. Well, kudos for this person. So we're going to start with broad brushstrokes and then journey towards fine details. So once again, I applaud the wisdom of seeking help. That is wonderful. Or as they say in Munich, das ist wunderbar. Das ist wunderbar. So let's discuss yin versus yang. Now you might say, hey, wait a minute here, mister. Slow your roll, cowboy. That sounds like Taoism, and it is. But the same principle is taught in Buddhism. You see, about 100 years before the advent of the Buddha, good old Lao Tzu either wrote or collected the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. If one were to read it, the entire collection, every single week for a year or 2 or 3, one would notice patterns. One would notice that the book is very good at defining which attributes belong in which category. And, contrary to the ravings of stupid white people, the book is not about reconciling the two. It's actually about always choosing yin. That's important. So, in Buddhist mythology, there became a dichotomy became popular between Gautama, the Buddha, and Devadatta, his wicked cousin. So Devadatta pranced about the countryside, insisting that it's awesome to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and sometimes cruel. Even Shakespeare wrote, I have to be cruel to be kind, but then that protagonist and his mother died. So maybe it wasn't wise to be cruel to be kind. However, in this ancient Buddhist dichotomy, Gautama was said to be flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So, there are always going to be people who are rigid and fearful and superstitious and controlling and elitist. These people will tell you all sorts of things that are just absurd. Ignore that superstition. The Buddha, when searching for teachers, he just came across the first teacher he found, pounced upon him like a cat on a mouse, and said, "Teach me." And when he learned all that he could learn from that teacher, man, he could go no further with that teacher, and he was still dissatisfied, like that YouTube song, "You still haven't found what I'm looking for." Then he went and found a second teacher. And when he had the same experience, that he went a little further with that teacher, but he still wasn't satisfied with the destination, he went off and began experimenting. He experimented with asceticism. He didn't like the results. Finally, he stumbled upon the middle way, the way you or I might stumble upon the trip over the root of a tree when strolling through the woods. He stumbled upon the middle way, and that worked for him. Upon the middle way, he found things that worked. He was delighted with the results. And he spent the rest of his life teaching it to others. There was no superstition involved. He taught a perfectly reasonable path. Whether you view his teachings through the lens of Theravada, Mahayana, or Vajrayana, there's always going to be a way of viewing the teachings that is rigid, fearful, superstitious, and controlling, or that is flexible, loving, rational, and laid back. I'm a big fan of this right here. One of the pieces of malarkey that people use to manipulate you is this. Well, finding a tantric teacher is a difficult thing. Finding the wrong teacher will drag you to Buddhist hell. Therefore, you must scrutinize a teacher for 12 years. The Buddha never taught that. The Buddha never did that. The Buddha was eager. Remember when you hit puberty and all of a sudden you decided you wanted to date? And you just approached anybody with a pulse and flirted, even if it was that you did a bad job, you were undeterred. Remember that? Bring that same earnestness into your hunt for a teacher. Don't buy the malarkey. Do not be hoodwinked by superficialities, for it matters not whether a potential teacher is beautiful or popular or wealthy. It don't matter. I once knew a guy who insisted, "I only learn from people who are wealthy because I want to be wealthy too." That's great if you're looking for a business mentor. But the Buddha forsook wealth to become the Buddha. Before the Buddha was the Buddha, he was Prince Gautama, Prince Siddhartha of the Shakya clan. He was marinated in power and privilege and debauchery and money, and he forsook all of that to pursue the path. So if we will forsake a teacher because they aren't pretty, if they aren't wealthy enough, then we also would have forsaken the Buddha, which is lame. Certifications are a trapping of patriarchy. Patriarchy is all about elitism. Remember in high school, there was a small minority that were considered cool. Maybe they had athletic prowess. Maybe they were pretty. Maybe they were just really good at being manipulative. These weren't the kids with the best grades. These weren't the kids with the best hearts. They were just powerful as you can be in high school. Well, that's how it works with patriarchy. And there's this illusion, this myth, this lie that if someone just has enough certifications, letters of reference, and what's the third thing? Credentials, resume, letters of recommendation, then they must be peachy keen. No. All it means is that a bunch of people approve of them. But that's circular reasoning. Just because, what makes A good? Because B approves of them. Well, what is B's approval count? Because C approves of B. Well, what makes C's opinion really good? D makes C's opinion. No. Guys, there's a myth. There's a dangerous myth that truth comes from authority. That's a lie of patriarchy. It's actually the opposite. Authority comes from truth. So the British, bless their hearts, bless their colonizing hearts, the British have a saying, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. If someone says, here's a cookie, and I said, thank you for the cookie. Is it vegan? Is it cruelty-free? Yes, it's cruelty-free. I'm not going to say, well, how many people have had this cookie before? How do I know it's good? I'll just take a bite of the damn thing and determine whether I like the taste or not. Similarly, we got to test our teacher, and here's how we do it. Hey, teacher, I want to study with you. Would you give me an introductory technique? Sure. Here's your introductory technique. They give you a technique. Play with it for approximately 5 minutes every 12 hours or so for 7 consecutive days. Quick caveat. If you can't manage 5 minutes twice a day for 7 days in a row, then finding a teacher is not your biggest problem. Just want to put that out there. Some people are like, I'm so busy being a Karen, I'm so busy being judgmental that I forgot that I have no personal power whatsoever. Now, most of us, if we've learned to brush our teeth first thing in the morning and last thing at night, then we've proven to ourselves and others that we can adapt a simple behavior twice daily. So, there you go. You found a teacher with a pulse who says, here's a technique. Cool. Play with that technique for about 5 minutes, about every 12 hours or so, for 7 consecutive days, and then notice your results. Hey, after 7 days of playing with that very brief, easy technique, are you less peaceful? Are you less joyful? Are you less resourceful? Do people call you Little Darth Vader? Then that teacher probably isn't for you. However, after 7 days, if you are a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more joyful, a little bit more loving, a little bit more resourceful, then perhaps you have stumbled upon someone who may be able to assist you on your journey. One last thing I want to share with you is the red flag of greed. The Buddha never charged fees. He accepted donations, but he never charged fees. Now, some deceitful people will lie and they say, oh, this isn't a fee, it's a mandatory donation. Malarkey! That's just a big fat lie. Guys, there is no such thing as a mandatory donation. By definition, a donation is voluntary. If you say to your teacher, I would love to practice with you, but I can't afford your fees, I can't afford to give you donations, a good teacher will say, the best thing you can give me is the enthusiastic application of my instructions. Master these instructions, become a happy camper, and that's enough for me. If your teacher can say that sincerely from the heart, that's a good thing. If your teacher's like, well, maybe you can sell something, then run away from that guy. They are a bastard. No. Well, I had a Bengali father-in-law, and he used to say, you're without sweetness. So let's see. I think I've given you a bunch of information. What I'd like to do next is simply chant and meditate with you, give you some really fun, easy techniques. Techniques so simple, even a big-nosed Jew like myself can practice them. Super fun, easy techniques after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. Oh, wait, a question. Yes, James, I am evil and simply must be destroyed. No, you don't have to. Do whatever works for you. Do whatever works for you. So remember what Christ said. Christ said, man was not made for the Sabbath. Sabbath was made for man. Similarly, these teaching tools I make are designed to make your journey easier. They're not designed to be a millstone around your neck that drags you to the depths that you might drown. That is not in my to-do list. Drown James. No, don't want James to drown. So, let's have at it. This is Lawton. By the way, my camera looks like it's all blurry to me. Does it look blurry to you? Let me know if you think it is. Anyway, this is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. I'm going to skedaddle and get a alcohol swab, see if that doesn't make the camera look better. Please bear with me. Okay, I'm back. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day. Whoops, and now it's blurry again. Son of a gun. Let's see. Okay. Oh, maybe I just need to go like this. So, for about 30 years, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi. Which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So what I'd like to do for the remainder of this morning's practice is play with my favorite Shastra. This Shastra was composed in the 1800s by a great Tibetan yogi known as Za Paltrul Rinpoche. As a very, very young man, he came to notoriety for composing a very, very rigid fundamentalist text called The Words of My Perfect Teacher. As a very, very old man, he composed this very concise text. I stumbled upon this about 30 years ago, and probably 25, 27, 28, who knows. Anyway, after my second 3-year retreat, I stumbled upon this. And what blew my mind was the introduction. The Dalai Lama writes a lot of forwards, writes a lot of introductions, and most of them are perfunctory. Yes, this is a Dharma book. You can benefit from Dharma, so read this book. But the 14th Dalai Lama just goes bananas over this book, praising the author, praising the text, praising the literary style, calling this text a complete path, which for someone who is a member of the Dalai Lama's sect to say of someone of a different sect is rare praise indeed. So, I really like this, and I hope you enjoy it too. And so we're going to flip and flop between chanting and mantra meditation and silent meditation, and I hope you have a good time. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window, and we'll be elated to answer them with you. Or tell a lame joke. You take a choice. You take a chance either way. I leave it to you. So you'll notice that when I chant, I put my hands in the puckered palm position in front of my sternum. I do not do that to supplicate a real or imagined celestial entity. I do that because doing so helps to, when I do this, it feels like real or imagined subtle energy is coalescing within the channels behind my sternum. Please chant with me now. To recognize as non-graspable as the mythic pure land comprised only of light. Whatever circumstances appear as a crucial point of the creation stage. Clinging to appearances beautiful or ugly is liberated into its own non-graspable nature. Free of clinging mind as it appears is as non-graspable as the pure land comprised only of light of supreme raising. Oh, you know what? I'm wondering. Okay, now. Not sure if this is where we ended last night, but let's continue anyway. In the self-liberation of visual experiences, recite the six-syllable mantra. So during your inhalation, please silently and mentally recite into C. During your exhalation, please silently and mentally recite relaxing. So what we're doing is, as we breathe in, we are tuning into our visual experience. And as we exhale, we are using words to invite our body to relax and our mind to release. Now here's the really cool thing. If all you do is silently and mentally recite these words in harmony with your breathing, that's enough. So I invite you to practice this with me for approximately 4 rounds. And I'm going to advance the tip of my left thumb during each inhalation. What is the metaphoric philosopher's stone that transforms the lead of a mindless mantra recitation into the gold of spiritually protective mantra meditation? The answer is twofold. Number 1, during our inhalation, we could silently, mentally, and passively recite this italicized bit. Number 2, during our exhalation, we can physically relax as best we can whilst striving to chant the 6-syllable mantra 8 times per breath. Now, if this is your first time with the Tibetan pronunciation of this mantra, please give yourself permission to have a learning curve. As Morticia Adams said to her husband, Gomez, please do not torture yourself. That's my job. Om mani mimi yung mani mimi yung Om mani mimi yung mani mimi yung Om mani mimi yung mani mimi yung Om mani mimi yung mani mimi yung. What if enlightenment was nothing more than mastering the Eightfold Path, the Buddha's Eightfold Path? The late head of the Nyingma sect of Tibet insisted that Tantra is based on sutra with which it must never contradict. As a child, I found the task of tying my shoes to be daunting. By the 1st grade, I had mastered tying my shoes, and I could do so spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. The Buddha felt that we could master the Eightfold Path in less than 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months. or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. This is taught in the second and final passage of the Satipatthana Sutta. If someone tells you it's going to take multiple lifetimes, thank them for their time and then run away because they is wrong. So let's begin our journey this morning with the seventh of the eightfold path, mindfulness. Every time we inhale, every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, whether we mean to or not, whether we feel it or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system. No, it is not found in the 3-pound supercomputer between our ears. Instead, it is ensconced within the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord. No, it has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. Well, then what has the sympathetic nervous system evolved to do? It's evolved to support our awareness, allowing us to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Therefore, the easiest way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. But wait. So, during each inhalation, we are wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're wired to also notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. That which we notice could be external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful. That which we notice could be interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. Well, what are we going to do with all this stuff that we notice is a good question to ask. And here's the answer. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, whether we choose to or not, whether we feel it or not, we are accessing the parasympathetic nervous system. It too is found in the spinal cord, specifically in both the lower lumbar region as well as the tippy top of the cervical region, depending upon how you like to label this region. This parasympathetic nervous system is evolved for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Now, here's the cool thing. I don't know if you are as lazy as me, but these things are occurring automatically. We don't have to force these things. We don't have to force perception as we inhale. We don't have to force release as we exhale. But wait, there is a fly in the ointment. The 3-pound supercomputer between our ears can act like a precocious child who means well, but is pretty much like Steve Urkel forever saying, "Did I do that?" So we can tame the ferocity of our brain simply by giving it a job to do. Hey, brain, during the inhalation, would you please silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this? Sure, I can do that. Hey, brain, during the exhalation, would you please silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax? Sure, I can do that too. So let's do that together right now. I'm going to do this for about 12 rounds. If you want, you can follow along with me. Oopsie. Please chant with me. To recognize sounds as non-graspable as mantra is the crucial point of recitation practice. Clinging to sound as pleasant or unpleasant is liberated into with some nature. Free of grasping the spontaneous sound of dreading samsara, and desiring nirvana is as non-graspable as the voice of the 6 syllables. So when you see that I've added parentheses and added a word with a smaller font, that's me performing what some translators refer to as an amplification. Some people think that's awesome. Some people think that makes me evil. I will let you decide for yourself. Together. In the self-liberation of hearing, recite the 6-syllable mantra. So now let's just apply that. Into here, relaxing. And now the mantra version of the same exercise. Om mani bimi yung, 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 om mani bimi yung. And yes, you might have noticed that the Buddhist 5-chakra system differs from the very popular, one of many Hindu chakra systems that has been very popular worldwide. When I first learned this, I found it very unsettling. Well, I had already learned about the 7 chakras, and I thought it was really cool how their colors were like that of a rainbow and were in harmony with the spectrum. And so I was very resistant to this exercise. But eventually I played with this exercise and found it, for me at least, it netted superior results. And so you'll notice that this figure of 2 individuals sporting in tantric union is the same color as this prayer flag of the Buddha of enlightened compassion, which is the same color as this elective right here, which is the same color as this bad boy right here. Come, let us rest the mind in awareness and letting go. Let's chant. To recognize senses non-graspable as if they were unborn is a crucial point of the completion stage. So you'll notice here that there's an italicized word that's the same font as everything else. This is not an amplification. This is just a adaptation. So I have adaptations and I have amplifications. Two for the price of one. Clinging to odor as fragrant or foul as liberated into its own non-graspable nature. Free of grasping all sensor as non-graspable, as the fragrant non-violent discipline of supreme chin raising. In this self-liberation of smelling, recite the 6-syllable mantra. So, super simple. As we breathe in, we notice scent. Scent could be pleasurable, it could be painful, it could be fragrant, it could be foul. It could fill us with hunger. It could fill us with nausea. As we exhale, we relax into the non-duality that whether that which we perceive is fragrant or foul, it all coalesces into the simplicity of simply smelling. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Here's a quick pro tip. During the silent meditation, I put my hands in my lap. During the mantra recitation, I rest my hands on my knees. I find that more sustainable. Perhaps you will as well. Silent meditation, hands in lap. Mantra meditation, hands on knees. Many fundamentalists always put their hands in their center line when they do mantra meditation. I find that to be physically painful. I don't want anybody else to experience pain needlessly. Together. To recognize flavors as non-graspable as an imaginary feast is the crucial point of offering. Clinging to taste as delicious or disgusting is liberated into its non-graspable nature. Once free of grasping food and drink or substances to delight the supreme Chenrezig. In the self-liberation of tasting recite the six-syllable mantra. So let's talk about this whole Chenrezig business. Well, we'll come there in a minute. Let's start here first. Well, might as well. Let's go back over here. So this whole Chenrezig, described in Sanskrit as Avalokiteshvara, translated into Tibetan as Chenrezig, which could translate into English as kind gaze. Those traversing the path of being rigid, fearful, and controlling tend to view kind gaze as an entity to be worshipped and supplicated. However, those of us who have the good fortune to travel the path of being flexible and loving and laid back simply view Chenrezig as an archetype whose iconography reminds us that we are already wired to master, no less practice, awareness and letting go, as well as bliss and letting go, and love and letting go. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. So let's demystify the 6-syllable mantra. Om is just invocation, Hung is just supplication. So what are we invoking? We are invoking We are invoking Mani, which is a metaphor, which is short. So Mani refers to the wish-fulfilling jewel of legend. It's kind of like Aladdin's lamp. And it's a metaphor for love. That when we practice love and compassion and empathy, it is like a source of blessing. Pemi is the pronunciation of Padme, which is lotus. Lotus here is a metaphor for purity. The purity that comes from letting go, the wisdom of letting go. So what are we supplicating? The wish that all beings everywhere easily and quickly master this path of love and letting go. And so there are many ways of translating or explaining this mantra. This is the explanation that I prefer. Please chant with me. To recognize sensations as essential sameness is the crucial point of equal taste. Feelings of repletion and hunger, hot and cold, are liberated into their own ungraspable nature. Free of grasping, all sensations and feelings are as non-graspable as the octop's body comprised only of light. In the self-liberation of sensation rests Artha's execrable mantra. This is really cool. Let's look at this. Do we have to believe that the nature of everything is non-graspable? No. Dude, belief is rigidity, and rigidity will take you many places, but peace is not one of them. Have you ever known someone who was totally uptight, but also peaceful? Of course not. The price of being uptight is you're miserable. I know. I've been that way. I didn't like it. So, here's the cool thing. When we play with these exercises, we viscerally experience. So, let's take another look at this. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less graspable, even for a moment. That's just the play of our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Enlightenment is not one state to be clung to. Enlightenment is just a method of dancing with the Buddha's techniques as we run through the obstacle course of life. So, since all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, let us sprinkle some figurative language into this equation, shall we? As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, any good literature teacher, any good composition teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. Therefore, we must ask, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? And the answer is something you've known since you were a child. How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. And so, simply by playing with in-breaths and out-breaths and an assortment of words, we can viscerally get better and better, not only at noticing, but releasing. And let's pretend you had a sweetheart in your life. When would you grow tired of kissing your sweetheart? You wouldn't. So just as you would kiss your sweetheart every day as just a delightful way of living, similarly, every time we breathe in, we get to notice what interesting things there are to notice in that moment. And during each exhalation, we get to release them. So here's the great irony. The path of enlightenment does not lead anywhere. The path is the goal. The goal is simply to get better and better and better at noticing and releasing. Doing so gives birth to love. Doing so gives birth to the wisdom of letting go. Doing so gives birth to the effortless effort of living in the flow state. These are things that can be mastered quickly within a handful of weeks. They don't require ordination or retreat. They can be done at home when you're wearing your fluffy slippers and your cat is curled up in your lap purring away. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. I cannot tell you how earnestly I recommend a gentle, gradual, sustainable approach. Every 12 hours, I broadcast a live stream. It's all free. If you can't attend live, most of them were recorded on YouTube for posterity. You can set your timer on your smartphone for 5 minutes. Practice 5 minutes twice a day. For the first 7 consecutive days. When that's no longer a challenge, you can bump it up to 10 minutes. Perhaps during your 3rd week, you can bump that up to 15 minutes. Perhaps during your 4th week, you can bump that up to 20 minutes. By the conclusion of the 15th week, sitting for a 15-minute lesson and a 60-minute guided meditation could be easy. Sure and steady wins the race. Please chant with me. To recognize all phenomena as being as non-graspable as a vast empty void is the crucial point of the view. Belief in the graspability of the so-called true and false is liberated into its own non-graspable nature. So let's stop right there. Does that mean we reject science? Fire's not always hot, water's not always wet? No, it means that we're flexible. What separates a high school physics teacher from someone working at CERN? Their proximity to the cutting edge of science. Those further away from the cutting edge of science are very, very rigid. those closest to the cutting edge are very, very flexible. They have to be, because their body of knowledge is growing and evolving in real time. The Buddha was a fan of intellectual integrity. And so am I. Let's continue. Free of the tyranny of grasping everything there is, all of the fearsome samsara and hope for nirvana is like the continuum of the Dharmakaya's mastery of awareness and letting go. So the fabled myth of the teaching body is seen here simply as a metaphor for the mastery of awareness and letting go. There's awareness and letting go, bliss and letting go, and love and letting go, and all are found in this practice. Whoopsie. That's why the Dalai Lama referred to it as a complete path. Let's continue. In the self-liberation of thoughts, recite the six-syllable mantra. So, I'm going to elaborate. What's done here is, in this one, we're just talking about phenomena. Of course, that reminds me from the song from the 60s, phenomena, da 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 da, phenomena, da 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 da. Anywho, in my studies, I've elaborated this. I treat the word phenomena as an umbrella to include emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. And so we're going to bring those into the path right now. Not because I'm evil and self-important, just because I want you to have the most easy, fun journey of enlightenment possible. I'm funny that way. Please chant with me. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever emotion we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. So whatever we're feeling, whether it's pleasurable or painful, whether it's glorious or grotesque, whether we want to save the world or throw feces at the world, it's just an emotion. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever intention we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. It is rumored that Einstein quipped that any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and more violent. But that it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. Let us make our journey just as easy and fun and quick and blissful as possible. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever cognition we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever recollection we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever imagination we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Together. Do not follow after the object of hatred, watch the angry mind. Anger liberated by itself as it arises is the clear void. The clear void is none other than mirror-like wisdom. In this self-liberation of hatred, recite the six audible mantra. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Do not chase after the object of rush the self-clinging mind. Whoops, wrong button. Let's try that again. Self-importance liberated by itself as it arises is primordial voidness. This primordial voidness is none other than the wisdom of essential sameness. In the self-liberation of pride recite the six-syllable mantra. In the self-liberation of pride recite the six-syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Do not hanker after the object of desire, watch the craving mind. Desire liberated by itself as it arises is bliss void. This bliss void is none other than discerning wisdom. In the self-liberation of desire recite the six syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Do not follow after the object of jealousy, watch a critical mind. Jealousy liberated by itself as it arises is void intellect. This void intellect is none other than all-accomplishing wisdom. In the self-liberation of jealousy recite the six-syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Do not just take for granted, I just watch by confusion, look at the nature of befuddlement itself. The host of thoughts liberated by themselves as they arise or awareness void. This awareness void is none other than the wisdom of the absolute expanse. In the self-liberation of befuddlement reside the six syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Form is as non-graspable as if it was unborn, primordially non-graspable as a vast empty void like the sky. The quintessence of this awareness is as non-graspable as generously comprised only of light. It is none other than like the sublime king of the sky. In the view of voidness reside the six syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung 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 om mani mimi yung. Feeling is like a lasso that binds mind and object together. When you know sensation is like the non-dual sameness of non-graspability, it is like kind gaze. One moment, if you please. Okay. It is none other than that like the sublime bounty of a lasso. In the realization of the same taste of emptiness reside the six syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung om mani mimi yung om mani mimi yung om mani mimi yung om Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung. Om Mani Mimi Yung. Appraisal, if you keep rigidly taking it as valid, is delusion. When you turn to all beings with compassion, it is like Avalokiteshvara. It is like none other than the sublime one who dredges the depths of samsara. In compassion without bias, recite the six-syllable mantra. Om Mani Mimi Yung. 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 Impulse as samsaric actions keeps you circling in the six realms. If you realize hate of samsara and craving for nirvana, all the very same they all reach as non-graspable as raising. It is none other than like the greatly compassionate transformer of beings, acting for others in one single non-graspable taste, recite the six-syllable mantra. Om Mani Mimi Yung. 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 Consciousness, the expression of ordinary mind, has 8 functions. If you realize ultimate mind to be like that of Machias, mastery of awareness and letting go, it is like kind gaze. It is none other than like the sublime motion of conquerors. Knowing that your own mind's mindfulness, meditation, and empathy, or like the Buddhas recite the six-syllable mantra. Om mani mimi yung, 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 om mani mimi yung. Alright, so I'm going to hit a placeholder here, and I'm going to hit Control G 397. I'm going to click Go to and Close. Now there's a good chance the display lost its mind, so I'll try to fix that. Together, let us seal this morning's practice by percussively chanting loving wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings lucid yet void now be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void now be as loving as a Buddha speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void now be as healthy as a yidam depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of Lord depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 9.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.